are struggling with digital painting, feel overwhelmed? It's alright, because you are in a right place. Today, I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step process for painting a portrait from start to finish. I promise these steps are legit and packed with value. Before we start, please like, subscribe, and share this video. So, are you ready to go? Let's get started. Step 1. The base sketch. Getting the structure right is key. Start by analyzing your reference photo while sketching out the main part. For the head, I'm using an uneven egg shape. Don't worry too much about precise outlines at this point. Then, at the neck and the shoulder. I'm intentionally drawing the neck a bit longer than the reference. In this photo, the shoulder is hunched, and I'm adjusting that to my own taste. Next, I refine the structure of the head. You can follow Lumi's head method. I divided the head into 3 parts: the front, the side, and the top. Then I add a vertical center line to show direction, mark the ear on the side, and draw a horizontal line for the eyes. Think of it like construction. Once you understand the method, it doesn't feel so intimidating. But remember, painting isn't math. Sometimes following method strictly can hold you back. That's why I always let intuition lead first, and use technique to fine-tune things later. One more thing, the idea of make it exactly like the photo often stresses people out. Here's the truth, that is a myth. Unless you're aiming to be a professional portrait artist, realism isn't the only goal. You need to ask yourself, what is your goal with the painting or this practice session? For me, I'm exploring color and testing my own style. So, realism isn't my goal. Once the facial features are roughed in, move on to the hair. I'm just looking for overall shape and edges. That's all these sketch lines are for. They don't need to be perfect. We all refine them later. Then I use the eraser tool to lightly clean up the guidelines and tweak the facial structure a bit. Adjust the overall silhouette. And boom, we are finished the sketch phase. Step 2. Defining the structure. Why do I call this step defining structure instead of line art? Because I'm not doing clean animated style line work. Yes, I'm redrawing some parts with more confident lines, but my goal is to clarify the structure from the previous sketch. It's an extension, not a reset. If you are going for that clean 2D look, sure, a polished line art path is a must, but I like to keep things flexible, since I know I'll be adjusting during coloring and rendering anyway. Here, I darken the line around the eyes, just defining the nose, lips, and the key facial structure. You can already see the character's vibe coming together. Simplifying portrait is about capturing those key areas. Thinking of stylized characters in manga or animation are constructed. They are boiled down to essentials. Same idea. For the hair, I'm still just finding the outer shapes. Everything here is serving the color phase that comes next, and pay attention to how different elements overlap. The visual layering matters. Working from photo references can be tricky, because you might get stuck into copying without thinking. And if you haven't developed your own art style yet, this gets even harder. So one tip, try studying the work of artists you admire. Copy their style to understand how they simplify and stylize. And after that, come back to real photo references and start applying your own interpretation. That's how you slowly build a personal artistic expression. Quick interlude. Mapping the shadows. Now, I'll block in a few basic shadows using a slightly darker tone, just flat shapes. We are using the two-value method here. If you are not familiar with that, check out episode 3 of Passive Sketching. I explained it in detail there. My plan for this piece is to keep the contrast subtle, so I'll lighten these shadows a bit later on. Next step, base colors. Time to lay down the local colors. While doing this, I'm mixing some gentle hue variation to avoid a flat look. But be subtle, too much color variation too soon makes things hard to control. Once the base skin tone is down, I move onto hair. The reference shows black hair, but here's my tip. Don't start with pure black. Use a low saturation dark brown or warm gray instead. That gives you room to build up and it's easier to control. Plus, just being honest, pure black is really hard to handle well. Of course, you can use it, but if you're still developing your coloring instincts, it's safer to follow my lead. Honestly, I don't have a great sense of color. I've had to learn it in hard way. That's why I always share these small tips. They are based on experience, no talent. For the closest, I keep things simple, just a flat base color. I'm skipping the detailed patterns this time. So I felt like the greenish sketch didn't quite match the tone of the skin, so I adjusted the facial sketch layer to make it warmer overall. In terms of a workflow, I usually merge the base sketch with the flat colors. It's actually a great method if you're not super confident with color harmony. After a few subtle tweaks, look, it already feels more balanced, right? Now remember what I said earlier, emphasizing the facial feature instantly boosts an overall look. So I'm picking a slightly darker color and using it to build on the shadows we already established. Take your time to experiment. All in all, we are working digitally. So, if something looks off, just undo it. That's the beauty of digital art, right? Some green tones from the sketch are still visible, and when they blend with the skin tones, it actually creates a livelier, more interesting palette. Not so flat or down anymore. At this point, I'd say the base color stage is pretty much down. It's already looking quite complete. Next step. Now, I'll go ahead and merge the sketch and base color layers. This helps keep things tidy for the rendering phase. Alright, time for the fun and slightly painful part. Rendering. Yeah, it's about to get detailed. With the sketch and base colors merged, I can now pick colors directly from the canvas using the eyedropper tool. Then I started refining all those rough transitions and areas lacking smooth blending. This is what we call rendering. Building subtle transitions, refining forms, and in depth while maintaining the overall structure we've built so far. Don't ruin what already works. Look at the eyes. They were pretty rough before, right? Now it's the time to clean them up. Here's a quick note. My personal style leans more towards structured forms. In other words, form plays a big role in how I approach a painting, because I already laid down a solid base of color. The render phase is more about smoothing and enhancing, not making huge changes. That means I'm mostly working on color transitions and shape refinements, making the blend between form and hue feel more natural. But hey, that's my style. If you prefer a looser, more abstract approach, that's totally valid too. Thinking of artists from outside of classical schools, Fauvism, Impressionism, Cubism, they don't follow strict structure, they paint expressively. For me though, I'm more about clarity, so if your taste aligns with mine, this workflow might be a good fit for you. Now, let's isolate the hair with the selection. Once that's locked in, we can safely build up more variation inside the shape. Same goes for the clothes and the neck area. Add a bit of color variation to make harmony across the whole canvas. Always pause and check the overall balance. It should read as a unified image. As we continue building up the hair, one thing to remember, don't get lost in the tiny details. See it as a volume, a mass. Use the same mindset we talked about earlier. Keep the contrast subtle. We don't want everything to be harsh black and white. So again, I toned down the shadow intensity a little. Not bad, right? Back to the face. Let's speed this part up a little. Coloring the lips now, which I skipped during the base stage. Now is the perfect time to give it some attention. Also, refine the structure around the eyes and the brows. Think of those aggressive beauty filters. What do? They smooth the skin and cranked up the contrast around the features, right? Our rendering process follows a similar logic. Emphasize the important structures while keeping the rest soft. But the beauty here is, since we understand the underlying anatomy, we're not just relying on this filter look. We are in full control, and the final result can be even better. So this face is basically rinse and repeat. Yes, it's repetitive. Yes, it's a bit boring, but there's also a little experiment in seeing things come to life. Now, some of you might say, couldn't you just use AI to finish this part? Technically, yes, if all you want is a finished output. But my goal here is exploration. It's practice. This is how we learn and discover our own value. Alright, the character's mostly down. Let's throw in a simple background. Just a flat base color will do. I don't want it to fill the whole space. Leaving some black areas gives the composition room to breathe. But wait, this background color feels a bit too close to the character's tones. Let's adjust it, lean more into green, create some contrast. Now, based on the reference light source, let's drop in a shadow cast behind the character. Boom, instant depths. And now, final touches. The big stuff's finished, so now we're just doing some small refinements and polishing. Little adjustments that boost the overall quality from, say, a 60 to a 65. These are subtle, but they make a difference. Observe, reflect, and don't rush. We're this close to the finish line. There's already a solid base. Don't mess it up now by going too fast. Now is the time to be extra thoughtful. One trick, flip the canvas horizontally. This helps catch anything that looks off. Make a gentle tweaks. Then flip it back. Feeling better now, right? Then pop in some highlights in the eyes and a few stray hairs around the silhouette. Do a quick color correction across the image and toss on a subtle grain effect. That's it. We made it. Hey family, how are we feeling? It's down. Honestly, this process was clear and efficient. Especially great if you are still building confidence with color. Did you find it helpful? If so, please like, subscribe, and share it. And if you have any questions, please leave your comments below. I'm Daryl, and I'll see you in next video. Bye bye.